3, 2. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to RVing in New England. You can see my partner, John DePietro, up on the top right there. You can see our special guest tonight, Anthony Nalli, the creator of the RVers. And Anthony, welcome to RVing in New England. And I'm sure you've been to New England before, but never like this. Oh, here goes DePietro.
Time out. Anthony, did you notice the way Zagami thought he was a Hollywood producer when he gave us the 5, 4, 3? All I was waiting for was quiet on the set.
He did a good job. It was awesome. I feel right at home.
No,
excellent job.
I don't have a big role in this show, Anthony, so I got to take advantage of the few seconds that John gives me. All right, Jim Convoy is on. Hello, Jim, and hope you're staying busy with your roofing business down there in Plainville. Jerry Plant. Jerry's going to have a bunch of questions for you tonight, I'm sure. He says he's hunkered down on Cape Cod. Sahara is ready to bug out if necessary. Sahara is his Class A motorhome, and Jerry is with Major's RV Service Center down in Cape Cod, our largest parts and accessory store, and probably one of the best service centers in the country. And Mark Polk from RV Education just joined us. Scott Nichols from Marshville. So you'll have fans, and every once in a while tonight we'll see a couple of strange names. So I'll assume those are in your fan club, but we'll be sure to recognize them.
Right on. I'm a big fan of Mark Polk's.
I am too. Like when I was writing for RV News, I did one of the first stories, maybe the first story, on Mark and Don when they started that company, and I was writing for RV News as a rookie cub reporter. But I was about 50 years old at the time, but I was still a rookie. 2 gals in the Boston Brooder on. Howdy, folks. Laurie flying back to Mass tomorrow. That's Michelle Fontaine and Laurie Church. And Michelle is the Director of Communications and PR for Rolling on TV. And Jim says, looks like you're practicing social distancing. Jim, we always practice social distancing.
Well, especially because our guest is in another country.
Right. Riney Lieberger is saying good evening to all. Riney with Bradford RV here in Massachusetts. John, I'll give you the opportunity to ask our guest the first question.
Well, Anthony,
you can defer to me if you want.
No, thank you.
Oh,
Anthony, we want to thank you so much for being here. And, the title, The RVers, Loving, Living. How did Loving, Living come about to kind of be the epitaph for the name of your show?
Well, that's what RVing's all about, really. Did you catch my about versus your about?
I got
the Canadian difference there. Okay, I try to curtail it as best I can, but you called me out on it.
Well,
loving living. I mean, isn't that what we all do in our RVs? We just exist day to day. We enjoy life as it's presented to us, and we go out and chase adventures, all the while loving living. It just, I think it just kind of works. The thought in my head was the Led Zeppelin song, which is more living, loving, but we weren't going to get the Led Zeppelin right, so I thought I'd kind of twist it a little bit so it's a little more fitting to our purposes.
Well, it's simple, but it's so apropos. It's exactly why we all do it and what we love about it. But how did you get into RVing? Because you've had we'll talk about the Aviators a little bit, but you haven't been a full-time RVer that long, and now you have a nationally acclaimed television program that's on every media outlet. So,
Bob, try internationally.
Right? How'd you do that? That's right, international.
Well, when I get into something, I get into it up to about here, I think. So, I've actually wanted to RV my entire life. Back when I was a kid, maybe 8 or 9 years old, on CBS every Saturday morning was a TV show called Arc 2. And I don't know if anyone has any knowledge of that show whatsoever, but it was basically, and I'm going by memory here, a little bit of a post-apocalyptic world where a bunch of scientists would go around in a roving science lab. And to me, that was an RV. You got to go around and journey the country and do whatever work was for you. And for these folks, it was science-y type stuff. But it was what they were going around in this roving science lab, to me, that was a motorhome. So invariably, whenever we would get a new appliance at home, a new fridge or freezer or a washer or dryer or something, and it came in a gigantic box, I would do one of two things with it. And I would rotate. So I would cut a hole in it and make windows and doors, and then I would draw with a magic marker and some crayons. I would either draw a panel and make it an airplane, because that's another one of my passions, or I would sort of make it a little bit of a driving house, and I would make it my motorhome. So since I was a kid, and we never RV'd, we never camped, we didn't do any of that stuff. So it was just this TV show that got me into even the concept of RVing, and I've loved it, or from afar, ever since. And I mean, I was less than 10 years old then, and I'm 53 now, and we got into it 5 years ago. So there were decades and decades and decades lost where I could have been RVing and enjoying it every bit as much as I have been for the last 5 years. But why did I only do it 5 years ago? And it's very much why I started the Aviators as well. I've wanted to fly since I was a kid, but I don't know. I got my pilot's license when I was about 35. And why did I wait so long? So I think my mission for creating these TV shows about things that I'm very, very passionate about is so that hopefully I can speak to someone like me who's also passionate about these things from afar, and for any number of reasons isn't taking the steps to realize that dream of theirs. And hopefully we can entice them enough and motivate them enough and inspire them enough to not wait any longer. You know,
we John and I talk about that a lot every week, and Jerry Plant has a question for you. He says, the show's guests are mostly social influencers. Any plan to include regular old people just out for a holiday weekend? What's your framework on that?
Well, absolutely. I mean, obviously, I wanted people on the show to serve as hosts who had some level of familiarity and expertise in RVing, because I mean, I learned my very first video that I ever watched in RVing, because it could have, and it sounds cliche, and if it's this is honest to God true. I was interested in RVing. We decided, okay, we're doing this. So we go to a few RV dealers, we learn a few things, and then what topic, I'm going to ask you guys, what topic came up that maybe gave me pause and gave me a step back? What was the subject?
Can I drive it?
He asked
That's a good one.
He asked you, he asked you if you're ready to buy today.
It was the black tank, honestly.
The black tank.
It was dealing with the black tank. It was dealing with the black tank. The can I drive it? That came a little later. I made my decision and I wasn't sure if I could drive it or not. But it was the black tank. And I thought,
were you afraid of it, or did you say there's no way that I'm going to do that?
Well, maybe a bit of both. I was afraid of what I didn't know. And I thought, if this thing is so impossible for me to get past and do, and therefore I'm never going to do it, well, I mean, you can't have a mobile home. You can't have a home on wheels that has a bathroom that you're never going to empty. So that if this thing became a mountain I couldn't climb, this thing wasn't going to happen. So what did I do? I went online and I Googled, black tank or whatever I Googled, and I came across an RV Geeks video. And I watched for, 8 or 9 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, this video of them doing the black tank. And after I watched it, I thought, well, that's not the end of the world. I mean, that's something that is certainly doable. So I kid you not when I say that if what I learned in watching that video was so I couldn't do it, then I may not have ever gotten an RV. But what they did was they made the unknown known. They demystified it, and they took what I didn't know out of it, and it just made me more comfortable. Now, is it my favorite thing to do, and do I have my horrible black tank stories? Yes, I do. Believe me.
We all do.
So, Anthony, have you ever told our friends, the RV geeks that whenever you think of them, you think of black tanks?
I think they did the math themselves.
I hope Peter and John don't think that that's the only way you remember them.
So,
well,
Anthony,
you know what?
They may not be co-hosts. They may not be co-hosts next year.
We've become extremely good friends, John and Peter and I, and I think of them fondly in many, many ways beyond the black tank. As a matter of fact, that's the name of another show, maybe, Beyond the Black Tank.
Beyond the Black Tank.
Well,
that's your offshoot. That's your offshoot to this show.
Yeah. Now, not knowing a lot 5 years ago and then learning and getting out on the road full time, how did you come about selecting the co-host and the personalities, the influences that you have on the show?
Not knowing anything 5 years ago, and of course now I know everything, right? I mean, I'm like the RV expert. I know everything there is to know.
Well, Anthony,
totally not. No way.
You must, because you had an interview with Mike Wendland, and now you're on with Bob and John. I mean, you could probably retire tomorrow.
I know a lot of really good people, apparently. Well, the first call I made, the first reach out I did to be part of the show was to the RV geeks for exactly the reason I mentioned. They were the first video I ever watched on anything to do with RVing. And for me, they were the make it or break it. So, I mean, I had to contact them to be on the show. And after I contacted them, I contacted Cherie and Chris from Technomadia because I need to be connected. And I've learned so much from them in terms of technology. And I am a tech junkie, so I really value and appreciate what they do because no one does it to the level of detail that they do. There's no one as good as they are, I don't think. And then through meeting other people, I came across the Mortons, Tom and Kate Morton, and I was just thrilled to have them join us on the show. Before the show, we were talking about the editing and the B-roll, the cinematography. And, I've got a lot of experience in both. And I have a team of people in Toronto that does very, very, very good work. But I've got to give Tom props, as I've done. He's got a keen eye for cinematography. And some of the most beautiful shots that you'll see on the show, they may have come from any number of people, but I would be willing to bet that if there is a spectacularly gorgeous shot, it wouldn't surprise me for a second that Tom shot it because he's got some real talent.
Were you using a lot of GoPro content in that first set?
Well, for that driving segment, we were, because we were kind of on the go and we had people in driving positions. So we had I don't know if you see me scrunched in the corner there. Oh,
no,
I just lose me.
No, you're there.
Okay, good. Yeah, my picture froze, so I wasn't sure if we dropped again.
Sometimes it'll do that. Yeah.
But we had me scrunched in the corner there on a live camera, and then we had a couple of GoPros. We don't use them a lot. We tend to use Am I still there?
Yeah, you are. Yep.
Okay, good. We tend to use GoPros.
Pixelated down there, but you're okay. We'll let you know if you're
as long as the audio is coming through, then we're good.
Yeah.
It just looks like you're stuttering.
We tend to use GoPros a little bit more in the Aviators because, of course, filming aircraft and activity in aircraft, sometimes in really, really tight spaces, if you want to get more than one angle from the back seat, you've got to use GoPros. We have more flexibility with the RVers, fortunately, so we don't tend to use GoPros nearly as much. We have fairly high-end production cameras that we do use. But, GoPros are a really good tool. And, since version 1, they're up to, I think, version 8 now. They're darn good cameras for what they cost, really.
Well, you used a lot of exterior shots where you hooked them to the wheel wells. The rear when you're doing the turns and stuff like that. You must have learned something, because when I watched the topics of that first season, number one, how do you drive a diesel pusher? Then, do you get a towable? Do you get a motorized? You really went from the basics on those 6 episodes with 2 or 3 segments per show. How did you come about figuring out your content?
Well, a lot of it is my natural curiosity. This is things that I've been curious about along the way. And if I have a certain curiosity regarding a certain subject, I'm sure other people do. So we cover it. Um, like with the aviators, if a given subject isn't of particular interest to you at a given time, or if you feel, I've been driving RVs for 50 years, I don't need to learn how to drive one. I would make two suggestions there. One is stick around, because in a few minutes there'll be another subject that could be completely different, that might speak directly to you.
Yeah.
But even broader than that, the segment that we did in the first segment of the first episode, very carefully, it wasn't to teach you how to drive an RV. It wasn't, because you're not going to learn how to drive an RV in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You're not going to learn it on a video.
Exactly. You got to learn it from experience. I would suggest getting a driving instructor, or going to a truck driving school, or doing something like that to really get proper instruction.
That's exactly what when I do my seminars and they talk about how can I drive this thing, that's exactly what I tell them to do. Go to a truck driving school and rent an instructor for a couple of hours and figure it out.
And that's exactly it. When we were picking up our fifth wheel, I'd never driven any kind of a towable before, and I was scared to death of, well, not really scared, but really more embarrassed about the fact that the first few times when I'm going to go back in, I know I'm going to attract a crowd. They're going to say, "Oh, this is looking good. This is good. Come on over. Bring your beer. This is entertaining."
That's why I was motorized.
My wife and I both took some truck driving lessons. We planned on taking 2 or 3 of them, but we ended up consolidating them into one long session. And we basically had the day. And by the end of the day, we were way more comfortable. And I'm not going to say that I'm really good at backing up the fifth wheel, but I'll tell you, I'm way better now than I was 6 months ago, 12 months ago, 18 months ago. The more you do it, the better you get at it.
Yeah.
But going back to the first segment, if you think about it, we're not teaching you how to drive a motorhome. What we were doing is we were sort of eavesdropping on a new person who had never driven a motorhome before in Kate Morton, and she was with an instructor, Peter, and Peter was showing her how to drive a motorhome. So we weren't teaching the viewers how to do it. We were teaching someone else how to do it, and we were sitting in on that lesson. And maybe we can learn a few things, but I think the thing that's more interesting is watching someone who's new learn something new and start off being a little bit intimidated by it, and proceed to actually starting to drive and not really being all that great at it, and then eventually breaking through and becoming more comfortable, less intimidated, and more confident and capable. And really, it's more a segment about the fact that if you think you can't do it, well, here's someone who thought they couldn't do it, and they did it.
That's a good point. And let me just get caught up on a couple of notes here. Walter Swenson says, Arc 2 was a great show. You can see episodes on YouTube. Well, Walter, obviously you and Anthony are much younger than I am, because I don't remember Arc 2, so I was off to other things at that point in time. Jerry,
that's when TV was in color.
Do you remember, John?
No, sir.
You're almost as old as me. Jerry Plant says, waited until I was 50 to get my pilot certificate. Don Polk joined us, and I should have given her credit a little while ago, because we always, criticize her for coming to the show late. But that just shows your stature, Anthony, because she doesn't usually come early to the party. So the fact that she came early tonight elevates you up another notch. So,
well, I arrived on time because I heard she was coming.
Yeah, and Don says our holding tank information is very popular. Okay, that's true. Don and says, hello, Bob, John, and Anthony. Ed Hurlbert, good evening, Ed. Ed, I don't know if you've come across Ed, Anthony, but he is the moderator and founder of the Facebook group called RV Tips, which is now up to 160,000 RVers contributing.
I'm a member of that group. I'm a member of that group. That's a fantastic group.
Great group. And Don says, we met John and Peter at RVX. They were very nice. Well, you met well, you didn't meet us at, we're very nice, but you didn't meet us at the show. So.
Yeah, but you're not John and Peter nice. They're
Right.
next level.
We're not I got news for you. We're not as smart either. Because
Hey, Bob, I think this is a time in the show where we need to just stop for a second and tell our guests who may have joined us late, tell our audience who may have joined us late, who our special guest and his name is Anthony Nalli. He is the executive producer, narrator, chief cook and bottle washer, and key grip, best boy, and dolly grip for the RVers, which is a brand new show entering its second season on both PBS, Discovery, as well as streaming situations all over America, including iTunes, Amazon, Apple TV. And we're happy to have Anthony join us tonight.
And you want
Happy to be here.
You want to do 30 seconds on share?
Sure, we'll do that. And folks, we want to thank you so much for taking time from your busy day to join us for our show tonight. And we want to thank you for taking the time to just look down in the bottom part of your screen somewhere. There's a button that says share. And if you hit that share button, share it with somebody who's into RVing, just getting into RVing, or thinking of getting into RVing, which allows us to reach 7,000 to 10,000 people per week on Facebook Live.
Good point. Anthony, I'm not sure we finished Walter's, Jerry's question about, because we get off onto the Mortons and, your team, but are there plans to, as he puts it, get some old people or some veteran RVers that are unknown, that are not influencers?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, not on the Discovery version, unfortunately, because we have to cut the show a little shorter to accommodate commercials. But on the PBS version and on the streaming version, we have a 5-minute segment called On the Road. So as well as the content that you see on Discovery Channel, there's additional content, a 5-minute segment in every episode. And in that On the Road segment, we do profiles of people that we've met on the road. Now, some of them are social influencers as well, because they have an audience and it's, they're relevant people. They're certainly interesting people, and they certainly warrant being introduced on the show. Some other on-the-road segments are that we use for introductions of the hosts themselves. But of course, once we're introduced, we don't need to be on again. But that segment is largely dedicated moving forward to ordinary people with either an interesting story, and we all have interesting stories, but an interesting story or an interesting RV. Case in point, it might have even been in the first episode. The On the Road segment was a wonderful couple that we met at the R Village rally last year. Who had a Unicat. And their RV was so cool looking. I couldn't go any place at the rally with our cameras and not have someone suggest to me, hey, have you seen their RV? It's unbelievable. So, of course, we had to go there and film it. And we thought we would do this little 2-minute thing with them. And they were so dynamic, and their RV was so fascinating. Really, On the Road almost became a segment because of that RV. My wife and I were also at this oceanfront little quaint RV park, and next to us was a couple from New England, from Boston, and it was their 50th anniversary that day. And I thought their RV was just, a Leprechaun, a fairly ordinary Class C, but their story of how they acquired it and the fact that it was their 50th anniversary and they were celebrating at RVing, I thought that was a great story. So we filmed that, and that's going to be an On the Road segment as well. I did ask them, though, and this was over a year ago that we filmed that with them. Being from Boston, and I'm from Toronto, I asked them if they had any pull with the Boston Bruins, if they could maybe ease up on the Toronto Maple Leafs a little bit. And I don't think they took that to the right people, because it didn't happen.
Well, we have no intention of doing that, seeing that both of us were in the original 6 in the formation of the National Hockey League. That history, as you well know, goes back pretty far. So it kind of like the Yankees and the Red Sox, Anthony. There's certain things that you don't mess around with in the winter.
Yeah, but you know what, Bob? I think there's more of a a love-hate relationship with the Bruins in Montreal than there is with the Bruins in Toronto. Toronto, they're like friendship thing, whereas Montreal, it's like,
well, that's true.
Don't mess with the two.
That's right. That's more like the Yankee Red Sox. You're right.
Going back to this on the road segment, is there anything we can do on this show to help elicit as well as solicit topics that people might have, because we'll reach a lot of people here, but can they send an idea to you and figure out a way to further that idea? Is there an email address or a place that they can go to send their idea about what might be an interesting topic for an on the road?
That's a great idea, and I think the best place to do that is probably on our Facebook page.
Facebook. Okay.
You can contact us through our website as well. You can do comments on YouTube videos. We're growing the YouTube presence. But right now, I think our primary point of contact directly with our viewers is on the Facebook page. We have Twitter and Instagram and all that other stuff as well. And so really, any way through social media or via email that people want to reach out to us and give us ideas, I kid you not, we read every single comment, and we take every single comment, like it or lump it. We take every comment into consideration, and if there's a lot of really, really good ideas, and I still have a lot of natural curiosity and a history of the curiosity that I had in my 5 years as an RVer, 5 years and growing as an RVer. I think the limiting factor here is the fact that there's only so much time on a given episode, and television is very expensive, so we can only have so many episodes, that we really want to cover every topic there is to be covered in RVing, at least at a cursory level, because we want to introduce new concepts to people who perhaps haven't thought of them. Maybe things that you might want to do with your RV, or places that you might want to go with your RV that hadn't occurred to you. Modifications that you might want to make to your RV that maybe hadn't occurred to you. We're not going to give you 100% of all the detail that you need. We just don't have the time for that. But if we can glance over a topic quickly and stir up just a little bit of a spark of interest, so that you can then take a focused approach and hit Google or YouTube and go and get more information on the subject that we perhaps contributed to getting you interested in, then I think we're fulfilling our mission for the show, is just to get people thinking about doing things in a new, different, and exciting way with their RVing, and ultimately not sitting on the sidelines and wishing they were RVing, but to actually RV.
Okay, Anthony, I want to mention a comment from Steve Giano, who's one of our regulars. Steve says, been looking for it and haven't seen it listed anywhere on cable. It's out there, but what we can do, Steve, we'll put some of the links down below, and I just put their website up there, but on the website they have all of that stuff listed. But anything you want to the audience about how to find it, where to find it, it's out there.
Yeah, I can give you a couple of little updates as to the broadcast schedule right now. We aired in the middle of November. We premiered, and then we ran through to around the end of December, and that was the end of the first run. But the good news is, as I'm talking to you today on March 18th, in just a couple of weeks, in April 4th, Saturday, April 4th, 8 a.m. on Discovery Channel, we are coming back. So we are back on Discovery Channel starting April 4th for 12 weeks. So the first 6 weeks will be season 1 over again, and starting May 16th at 8 a.m. on Discovery Channel, season 2.
That's fantastic.
Okay, Anthony, you brought up a couple things that I thought were interesting there, where you said we want to go more into the social media area. Let's use Aviators for a question here as an example. Have you been able to? Obviously, you get your numbers from Discovery and PBS as to what their audience is and subscribers, et cetera, et cetera. But have you been able to do any type of comparison between the broadcast version and the the download version? And if so, how do the numbers shake out?
Well, you'd be surprised. We actually don't get very many detailed numbers on that kind of stuff. In fact, the way Apple TV does it, it's kind of silly, to tell you the truth. But on Premiere Day on Apple TV, which was the day after Premiere Day on Discovery Channel, so it was November 18th, I think. I can't recall exactly, but we premiered on Apple TV on Premiere Day, and we rose to the #1 position for nonfiction television. And that beat titles like the very heavily promoted History Channel show Oak Island and HBO's Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. We beat them. Our humble little program beat them. And the way we know that, and this is the funny part, they don't tell us that. They don't report this information to us. We basically sit there like we're watching the stock market, and we watch the rankings all day long, and we're refreshing the page like every minute. And we say, oh, we're on the charts. We're number 97. And then we refresh. And then 20 minutes later, oh, we're 86. Refresh. We're 62. And then we made it all the way to #1, which, I mean, all of our shows, whether it was Air Boss or all 7 seasons so far of the Aviators, have ranked in at least the top 5 position on iTunes on release day. And we thought, if we make it into the top 10 with the RVers, we're really, really happy. When we broke the top 5, we were thrilled. And then when we dipped our toe into #1, unbelievable. Just absolutely.
Celebration. Hey, I got a couple of industry experts on that I want to recognize tonight. Rick Kessler from RV Business has joined us. And Rick joins us at 7:30 because he's out on the grill cooking his dinner. So, Rick, I don't want to make you feel bad, but Don Polk got on the show faster tonight than you did. And,
that's a burn.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. And Kevin Hiroki's on. Kevin says, hello, Bob and John. Love the show. Thanks for everything you do for NERVDA. Well, I hope we do it outside of NERVDA, too. Kevin, by the way, Anthony, you got a Keystone product, right? What do you
I do.
You're towing High Country.
I am sitting right now in a Montana High Country 381 TH, which is the toy hauler with the small garage in the back that actually is situated under the bed in the bedroom.
Well, Kevin's our Cougar rep in New England and one of our finest manufacturers reps. And I don't say that because the guy's on the show tonight.
Yes, you do.
He works the shows really hard. He works with his dealers. So I'm sure he'd like to have you trade out the High Country for one of his products. Kevin, next time you see Bob Martin, Kevin, will you tell him we're looking for sponsors for the show, and I'd be glad to send you a sponsor package. Maybe you can get the guys at Cougar, and then we could mention you every week. So we got that out of the way. John, go ahead with another question.
I got a question. Now, Anthony, you're a dog owner because in one of the other interviews that somebody was doing with you, I think it was whatever, I saw a black dog. Is he in the back there now?
No. I was just checking over my shoulder here. I was hoping that there was a dog back there, but they're in the back with my wife.
Yeah. Traveling with pets. Is that a topic that you're going to deal with? Because there's so many RVers out there. When we've asked, why did you become an RVer? They said, because I had to take our pets with us. Is that a near and dear to your heart subject?
I would suggest that you watch season 2. That is a segment we're covering in season 2 with Tom and Kate Morton.
And that was unrehearsed.
Yeah, no, hey, you had no idea. You had no idea. It's a good idea for a topic, so we don't know.
We don't know what we're doing. We're unscripted.
But the thing that I did notice on season 1, episode 1, is because I've been around this TV business for too long that I can even remember, is that your brain, there we go. I thought it was a black lab at first, but evidently it's not.
We've got 2.
Oh, 2, okay. When you go into a break and come out of a break on the streaming segment where you don't go into the break, it's amazing that it doesn't look like, we'll be back with more right after this. that type thing, which I thought from a director's point of view was genius from that end of it.
Well, now, we talked a little bit earlier, John. Tell them what else you picked up that I'm sure nobody listening tonight, nobody watching us tonight, and nobody who watches us, the 10,000 people that will watch us next week, are going to pick up what you picked up.
Well, Bob, why don't we do this? We must have a book from somebody that we can give away as a guest, right? I give away as a gift.
I got plenty of books. I can give Julian Mark's book, Living the RV Life, or I can give Stephanie and Jeremy's.
Okay, either one. So, folks, here's what we're going to do. This is called forced viewing, but who cares? Okay. Go to season 1, episode 1, and the young lady who is learning to drive, there's something that in Massachusetts, she's breaking a rule. So
that might a rule a lot.
Right. Just write to us. Who do you want to send it to, Bob?
I'll put my email up.
Yeah. And the first one who gets it will win one of those books. We'll give you the choice of the books. We've got several gifts that we can use. Anthony, is that pretty good? Because we did talk about that before, but we won't reveal it right now. But she was breaking a law. You tell us the law that she was breaking in season 1, episode 1. And this is good because this is not only good for our live audience right here, but for anybody that watches it on replay, which is, again, the vast majority of the people that do it that way.
Okay. So
cool.
Email me on that.
And another interesting thing is that this time last week, Bob and I and Rick Kessler were in Palm Springs where you shot that segment. And I was looking I saw the windmills. Of course, no matter where you are in Palm Springs, you see windmills. But I just thought it was a great show from the aspect of the technical quality.
Thank you. Is that at the? I think was there a Winnebago thing going on there? Was that?
Yeah, that was the Winnebago. Yeah,
Winnebago yeah. And you know where we were? I don't know if you went to when you're out there. It was the Palm Springs Airline Museum.
No, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, that's where we had the dinner, and the speaker was Shannon Hoffman Polson, who was the first woman helicopter pilot for the Apache helicopter.
Apache.
Fantastic story.
Apache.
And,
wow.
Fantastic book. And she was the keynote speaker. And if we're talking Aviators for just a little while, two things. You had, I found my favorite, two of my favorite airplanes are the B-25 Mitchell and the F-4U Corsair, because the Corsair was made by Chance Fountain in Connecticut. And
the Corsair is my favorite. Absolutely.
And the Pratt & Whitney engine. Well, actually, I owned before I got into this stuff, or after I did this, I owned an imaging company, and we did the restoration of a Corsair down in Connecticut. A bunch of Pratt & Whitney employees had picked up one of the airplanes, and I did all the microfilm and scanning of the documentation for them to do that rebuild. I found the Corsair on one of your shows, and I haven't looked at every one of the AV. I'm going to order the whole set because I have the same two passions as you. I was flying balsa, Gillow airplanes when I was 5 years old, but I didn't find a B-25. You had a B-17. Have you done anything with the B-25, and have you done anything with the Collings Foundation and their fleet? Because I used to sell to Bob Collings when he owned Data Terminal Systems. We both lived in Stowe, Mass.
No, I wouldn't. I would say no, definitely to the second one. And I think a B-25, I think it would be tough for a B-25 to have been completely missed on the show, though I know it hasn't been featured. It may have been on the show in passing as we were doing some filming at a Warbird section of an air show.
Yeah,
but we haven't done a feature segment on a B-25, I'm afraid.
All right, I'm gonna send you information on the Collings Foundation. He's got an incredible fleet, and unfortunately, they lost one of their B-17s in the pilot last year. You may have read about it, but it was fully restored, and they had the pilot was the pilot who had the most hours in the seat of a B-17, and it crashed and killed them. So he knew what he was doing. He knew what he was doing. But they've got a tremendous museum here in Massachusetts, and they got a rotating fleet that goes around the country. I will send, because that would be a great segment for the show. Not that we should tell you how to produce your own show. That's not why we're here. I'm in awe of the show that you have produced. So if you folks have any aviation questions out there, we're free flowing here. Feel free to do it. But,
and now moving back into RVing.
Back to RVs, go ahead.
Bring us back to our topic of our show. Anthony, in the 5 years that you've been RVing, what has been the most surprising good thing that you've seen about the RV lifestyle, and what has been the most surprising thing that you could say needs some improvement in the RV lifestyle?
Very interesting. Very interesting. Well, I'm going to start off with the negative one, and then we can erase it with the positive one. I think the most surprising negative thing is just how often you need to be fixing something. Like, even if it's just a minor thing, something has vibrated loose and you got to tighten it. I mean, not to nitpick, that's not a big deal, but something will break or you'll blow this, and you tend to either get really good at fixing things, or you start to learn a lot about subjects that you hadn't ever thought that you'd need to know that much about. And I'm not really good with electrical systems, with amps and watts and volts and all this. But we recently had some electrical problems, and we're going to get to the bottom of it, and it'll be fine. But when you're in the middle of a problem that you can't just readily solve, it's very frustrating and very challenging. The flip side of that is, man, if you're having trouble with your RV and there's another RVer anywhere close to you,
right,
we're going to help you. And and everyone has gotten pretty good at fixing little aspects of RVs. So if you have a few RVers around you that see you're in trouble, dimes a donut, someone's going to have the answer there. So, I mean, the answer is not far away. But man, if I've never fashioned myself to be a very handy person. I've gotten pretty darn handy over the past 5 years. I still have a long way to go, but compared to where I started, I'm a downright handyman now, just by necessity.
Now, Rick Kessler is saying that Anthony's band needs its own show.
Yeah, I just noticed that one. Yeah. Is there another spin-off coming, Anthony?
Well, television is very, very expensive, but one thing that you will see more and more throughout the show is not only members of my band. My singer actually had an on the road, because he's a brand new RVer. He picked up a used Class C, a pretty beat up one too, that's holding up very, very well. So he was in one of the on the road segments in season 1, and he and I will both be on camera as newbies to boondocking, which we hadn't done, which we now have done. Me as maybe a little bit more of a seasoned RVer, but new to boondocking, and him, a new RVer, new to boondocking. So we're not getting our own TV show, but my band, which is called Wicked Truth, by the way, we like to play a lot of Led Zeppelin, Van Halen, Aerosmith, Guns N' Roses, that sort of thing. You will see us on TV, and we're actually becoming increasingly popular in not only the RVing community, but in the aviation community as well.
So you have a very good chance of never performing at an FMCA concert if you're doing Aerosmith, Guns N' Roses. Hey, but Doug Turner writes, this guy has an epic goatee. It's awesome.
You like it? I've been working on it for a while.
You never know what our viewers are going to say. Anthony's band needs its own show. Been looking for it and haven't seen it.
Well, and it's very important. Rick says he had kielbasa on the grill tonight. So
kielbasa, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to talk about printer vans.
Adam Laydick, that's a new name. Adam, welcome to the show. He says, if you guys want to talk about lifting printer vans, I think what he means is uplifting sprinter vans. And if that's a subject that you want to talk about. See, when you do this for a long time, you figure this stuff out. Hello, Maria. Glad that you joined us tonight. Maria
That's
says,
part of the reason.
we continue to be RVers. Ed says we full-time with 2 puppies. And, okay.
Oh, we got some good ones. Bob, while you're working on those, let me ask you another question.
Yeah.
Were you surprised at the demographics and psychographics and background and occupations of the RVers that you met? Because I think you'd agree that at least in the U.S. there is a incorrect stereotype that RVers are all retired blue-collar people lacking teeth, hair, and tons of tattoos, and those are just the women.
Well, no, I'm not going to say I was surprised, but I definitely it was made abundantly clear to me early on that RVing is not something limited to retirees. And I think that's part of the mistake of the people who are dreaming about it. People who are not in RVing right now but want to be, have a perception that, oh, I'm going to do that when I retire, because they think that's when you do it. What I've learned, particularly through groups like the Escapers, which is the
younger version
subgroup of the escapees.
Right, you're not old. Right, you're not old enough to be in the escapees yet. Anthony.
Oh, sure. You know, the Escapers in particular, we're doing a segment as well with Travis and Mel from Escapers on working age RVers. And what that means is basically what you just said. You don't have to wait till you retire to enjoy RVing. I mean, particularly with what's going on right now with people having the ability to work more, or the necessity, as the case may be, to work remotely. Once you're working remotely, and I have for a number of years prior to even getting into television, but if you can work remotely and you can work from a home office, well, then there's really no limit to where that home needs to exist. So if you're able to move that home office from one part of the country to another, so that when you're not conducting business, when you're not working and earning an income, you can actually live your life to the absolute fullest. I think more and more people of a younger demographic and of a middle demographic are learning that I don't have to wait for 2 weeks in a year to do something I enjoy. I don't have to wait until I've finished my career to retire and enjoy things. I can enjoy my life right now, every day or every weekend, and see some of the most amazing things North America has to offer on a regular basis, and still work if I need to work. I think that demographic I think is growing in RVing, and I don't think the retiree demographic is getting any smaller. More and more people are retiring, and more people are dreaming about RVing. So those people will continue to feed the RV industry and participate in RVing. But I think the new part is the younger demographic is really starting to wake up to the fact that they can work and RV and enjoy life, and they're doing it.
Well, I think that's one of the things that we'd certainly like to see traditional RVers on the show. But I think one of the things that was very smart in the beginning of what you did was to show the younger influencers, because they have already done it. It isn't, I think you can do this, or if you try really hard, you can do this. You showed right out the gate how the changing demographics of the RV industry are impacting everybody, whether it's the young kids or the millennials or working young couples, and just by following them and people paying attention to them, they're doing it in everything from a $2.5 million bus to a $20,000 trailer, or a Winnebago Revel up in the mountains, or a GoPro, a GeoPro, or an ePro. There are so many different RVs out there for them. So I think as an industry, we've passed that hump, and we mention it every week, and I'm sure our fans get tired of it. But the fact of the matter is, to your point, and we've said it many times, don't wait. How many people do we know that have said, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it, and then they die and they didn't do it? But there is an RV for everybody's budget. I don't care whether it's $10,000 or $2.5 million. If you want to do it, you can do it. And we stress lots of times, when next time you buy a second car, make it a Class B motorhome. Get out on the road, get out on weekends, get out and learn it, and then graduate with that. Jerry
That's what Bob does better than anybody in the industry when he does his introduction to RVing seminar at RV shows, which always have a standing room only.
You send John and I one of those. I'm going to send you 2 nerve debugs, and I don't have one sitting. I don't have one sitting on my desk because I don't normally drink coffee or. I don't know what you got in yours, but I know what I got in mine.
Send. We'll give. I've got water, Bob. Show them the color of the water that you've got there.
Show them the color of the water.
His water looks like scotch.
Yeah, no.
Anthony, there's a number of other questions here, Bob. If you ask Anthony this deep question, Anthony, talk about the magic of the campfire.
I'm not sure you're going to get that from me. I'm not really a campfire guy. I think it's got beautiful lighting. It gives amazing warmth, but
you haven't done one yet. Okay, well,
I'm not sure I've lit a campfire. I'm not really a sit around the campfire kind of guy, but so many people do. I love the smell. I know when someone else has got a campfire going, it smells incredible.
But you must have been around a lot of campfires at Coleman's R Village Grand Get Together recently.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. I'll tell you, if we're lighting a fire, I'm cooking something.
Oh,
and it's not a marshmallow.
I'm not going to waste a perfectly good fire and not grill some meat.
And you're not talking about marshmallows. You're talking about steak.
I think Don Polk would rather you had a skewer full of vegetables, Anthony. So don't hurt him. Mark and I, John and I and Mark, we would join you for a steak on the grill. Rick Kessler says, "What's Anthony's dream RV?"
Oh man, you know what? Like with airplanes, you need an RV that fits the mission. So if you want to live in,
that's deep.
Well, you know what? 5 years of experience now, right? I'm in our third RV in 5 years. Our first was a used Class A toy hauler, and we loved it. But when we thought we would extend our full timing, we just thought it's a little too small. So now we're in this 43-foot fifth wheel, and it's the size of a downtown luxury condo. I mean, it's enormous. But when you want to tour the country, it's enormous. It's a lot of weight, a lot of heft to carry around.
I think
we picked up Class B as well. So
Anthony, I think Kevin would appreciate it more if you said the name of the RV again and the manufacturer.
All of them, or
the one that you're in now?
The one that I'm in right now, the Montana High Country 381TH
by Keystone.
Keystone.
Yeah, Kevin's a loyal fan. We don't want to lose him, so we'd like to throw him a couple of tidbits every now and then.
Oh, and Chris,
we've been actually talking to Keystone about coming on as a sponsor of the show. So hopefully this plug helps.
Yeah, Chris Andrew's on with us tonight. He's one of the co-owners. He's one of the co-owners of I'm going to say Hemlock Hill RV. Chris says, benefit of a Keystone product is color-coded wiring. Look at Chris is going into a sales pitch already. Come on,
that Chris. Is very true, and I hope to never see the color-coded wiring or never.
Exactly, color-coded wiring is nice, but that's not why you buy the RV. But that's okay. That's fine.
So, Anthony, in the spirit of show research and show trying to find out what people want, if you want to ask our people what types of topics they'd like to see, you could go ahead and do that right now.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you. I'm going to tell you what I have found, and if the viewers can respond to either verify or contradict, I have found that people are becoming increasingly interested in destination segments. They really like to experience through the show what it's like to do something or be somewhere. So we are trying to shift our focus. I mean, we're going to kind of dabble into a little bit of everything, but some are going to get a better response than others. And we definitely want to give more attention to the things that get a better response. And right now, what we're finding is RV destinations are of particular interest. So can our viewers tonight, can they confirm or deny?
And they will do that. And one of the things we always ask our guests to do is, after the show, go back through the comments, because we can't get to them all. And there's some that you might want to answer personally. But on that note, I used to write for a magazine, one of our industry magazines, and I did product reviews for them. And of course, product reviews, many times you would always go to a destination. And I would say to them, why can't I write the product review and mention the destination? They didn't want that, but they didn't want a separate article on the destination. And I tried to convince them that the RV is the vehicle to get us to the destination, to get us someplace where we want to do something. And again, whether it's in a pop-up or a $2 million bus, you're going somewhere to do something. And the editors could not understand that. So I don't write for that magazine anymore. But anyway.
So Anthony, you're obviously going to get Yellowstone, you're going to get Yosemite, you're going to get Grand Canyon, you're going to get the Black Hills, et cetera, et cetera. But if you ever want to come to New England and do Acadia National Park, where the sun first hits the United States at Cadillac Mountain in
Cadillac Mountain, right there.
Bob and I will do that.
We'll be happy. We'll be happy to help you out with that. We're such.
I would love to go and pay you guys a visit. You guys have all the lobster.
Right, I was going to say, we're such nice guys, Anthony. If you come up to Maine, we will take you out for a lobster. How's that?
Love it. I'm there. I'm on my way.
In the great state of Maine, outdoors.
I told you.
2.2 that place.
This hour was going to go by quickly, and we have got about 3 minutes left. Anthony, did we leave anything out that you had hoped that we might talk about? Because again, we didn't script this thing. We just, hop on the phone and hop on the video here and do it. But anything else that you'd like our audience to know about you or the program or RVing that they might not have learned yet?
Oh, we covered a lot of stuff. You guys have been great. I did have the opportunity to state it, but I would just like to reiterate it. I would love for you guys and for your fans and viewers to join us on Discovery Channel on April 4th. And set your DVRs. Be sure to watch us, because we're going to give you the rerun of season 1, and then we're going to give you season 2 starting on May 16th. So Discovery Channel, 8 a.m. And we can't wait to have just a whole new mass of viewers joining us at that time.
Well, we will promote it around that time too, because I set my DVR on the first one. To do that, and let me just see here.
We just got a bunch of new ones that just came in.
Yeah, we just had a flood of things come in.
No one landed.
I can read them.
I wish I had worked with no one like Jerry, like you said, and Jerry Plant. What do you call it? Said no one has ever laid under the deathbed saying, "I wish I had worked more."
That's true. Exactly. Yep.
That's true. Maria says it's the most peaceful time of the night. You got that right. Don's smiling on us. Rick Kessler, Zagami with the burn. Rick, I couldn't let you go by without whacking you a couple of times. And Chris Ando, and Chris lives this. I see Chris post on Facebook. He says he lives for my campfire and my martini every Friday night. And he's out there with his family and his kids and his girlfriend. And he lives the life. And that's one of the things that we look for, both in the industry, certainly in NERVDA. Deal is, manufacturers are making products, and some of them have never been in a campfire. Dealers are selling them; they've never been in a campfire. I can attest to Chris being around that campfire every weekend that he has a chance to do it. He wants to know. Well, now he's got his business hat on again. He wants to know what kind of truck are you using to tow with to the high country. What kind of truck are you doing?
GMC Sierra Denali Dually.
Okay, that's a nice one. Nice truck. Okay. Rick says, always wanting to learn about new gear. Maria says, in love with my Keystone Fusion. Great product. Steve says loves Cadillac Mountain. Don says great show. Derek says great show. And it's 8 o'clock, and we promised them we try to get off at 8. Anthony, I want to thank you for a fabulous show. We could probably go for 2 or 3 hours. John, I'll give you a quick couple of seconds to say goodnight, and we'll let Anthony close it out.
Anthony, time is all yours. Thank you so much. You're a great guest.
Thank you very much, guys. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much for the invitation. And, let's stay in touch. I look forward to working with you guys again. Great show.
Anthony.
We will. Thank you. Good night. See you down the road.
Take care. See you, everybody.